Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt that electric charge with your partner? Not the polite kiss goodbye before work, not the tired embrace before bed, but that deep, magnetic pull where you couldn't wait to touch each other. For many couples, if they're honest, that moment feels like a memory rather than a reality. And yet, we rarely talk about it. We speak about commitment, loyalty, the mortgage, the children, the schedules. But passion, desire, the heat that once made you feel alive in your own skin, that often slips quietly into the background. It's not because the love is gone. It's not because you've chosen the wrong person. It's because marriage, as beautiful as it is, has a paradox built into it. On one hand, we crave safety, stability, predictability. On the other, we long for excitement, mystery, even danger. Passion lives in that tension. And when life becomes too heavy on one side, routine, obligations, certainty, it begins to fade. But here's the truth. Passion can be rebuilt. It is not something that simply dies. It is something that can be reawakened. And in this conversation, we're going to explore exactly why most marriages lose passion, and more importantly, how you can bring it back. You know, I've sat across from countless couples in my years of listening, observing and guiding, and there's one sentence I hear more than almost any other. It's whispered quietly, as if it's a secret, as if saying it too loudly might break something fragile. The sentence is this: I love my partner, but I don't feel that spark anymore. And when I hear those words, I don't hear failure. I don't hear a marriage falling apart. I hear the reality of what happens when two people build a life together. Because life is heavy and passion is light, one often crowds out the other. Think about how it was in the beginning. Everything felt electric because everything was new. You didn't know what your partner was going to say next. You didn't know how they would respond or how far things would go. That uncertainty created excitement, and that excitement created desire. Desire is not just about sex, it's about the energy of wanting. Wanting someone, wanting to be wanted, wanting to surprise and be surprised. But as the years go by, we replace uncertainty with routine. We know what our partner will say, how they'll react, what they'll order at the restaurant, even the jokes they'll make before they make them. And while this kind of familiarity brings comfort, it also quietly smothers the flame of passion. Because passion doesn't live in certainty. It thrives in the unknown. I once had a couple sit in my office, and the wife said, "He's a wonderful man, he's a good father, he provides for us. But when I look at him, I don't feel that pull anymore." Her husband looked devastated because from his perspective, he was doing everything right. But here's the paradox. The very things that make someone a stable partner, reliability, predictability, responsibility, are often the same things that make them less exciting as a lover. This is one of the great contradictions of marriage. And if you don't understand it, you start to believe something is wrong with you or wrong with your partner. But nothing is wrong. What's wrong is the belief that love and desire should flow endlessly, automatically, without effort. That if passion fades, it's a sign of incompatibility. No. Passion fades because passion has conditions, and we stop feeding those conditions. Let's begin with one of the first reasons marriages lose passion: the weight of responsibility. When you first fall in love, there are no children, no mortgage, no endless to-do lists. You meet for dinner, you stay up all night talking, you take risks because nothing is weighing you down. Love is light, free, intoxicating. But marriage often brings with it a household to run, jobs to manage, perhaps children to raise, parents to care for. Suddenly, your conversations are less about dreams and more about logistics. Who's picking up the groceries? Who's paying the bills? Who's calling the plumber? Responsibility, while necessary, creates a dynamic where you and your partner become teammates rather than lovers. And passion rarely lives on the battlefield of logistics. Passion comes from play, from curiosity, from novelty, not from calendars and carpools. When couples forget how to play, when they stop creating space for fun, for laughter, for silliness, passion begins to dry up like a river with no rain. Now here's where it gets interesting. Responsibility doesn't have to kill desire. It only kills desire when responsibility becomes the only role you live in. You can be a good father, a good wife, a reliable partner, and still be a playful lover, but it requires intention. You have to consciously carve out space where you're not just managing life. You're creating moments of spontaneity, of mischief, of surprise. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you and your partner did something purely for fun, without any purpose, without any outcome attached? Not for the kids, not for the house, not for the future, but for the two of you, here and now. Most people can't remember because they've been so consumed by the weight of responsibility that they've forgotten how to feed the lighter parts of their connection. The second reason passion fades is that couples confuse intimacy with desire. You see, intimacy is about closeness, about transparency, about sharing everything. And it's beautiful. Intimacy says, I know you inside and out. But desire doesn't want to know everything. Desire wants to wonder. It wants to imagine. It wants space to fantasize. So many couples, in their quest for closeness, overshare. They believe that true love means telling each other every thought, every feeling, every detail of their day. And while honesty is important, too much transparency can strip away the very mystery that fuels attraction. Because desire lives in the space between you and your partner, not in the merging of every single part of you. Think about it like this. When your partner walks into a room, do you still see them as entirely known, predictable, safe? Or do you allow yourself to see them as a separate person with their own inner world, their own secrets, their own individuality? Because it's in that recognition that your partner is not fully yours to possess that desire is born. Many couples make the mistake of believing that the more merged they become, the stronger their bond will be. But passion doesn't thrive in merging. It thrives in distance. It thrives in the space where you can look at your partner not as an extension of yourself, but as someone mysterious, someone you can't fully grasp. That space is what creates longing. I remember a husband who once told me, "I love that my wife still surprises me. Sometimes I'll watch her at a party, laughing with other people, and for a moment I see her as if she's not mine, and that's when I want her most." This is the essence of desire. It's not about ownership, it's about longing. So if intimacy is about closing the gap, desire is about maintaining just enough distance for mystery to survive. And when couples confuse the two, when they believe that being close means being merged, they unintentionally suffocate the very space where passion lives. And this brings us to the third truth. Passion requires imagination. In the beginning, imagination is effortless. We project onto our partner everything we hope for, everything we long for, everything we fantasize about. But over time, imagination gives way to familiarity. We stop seeing our partner as a canvas of possibility and start seeing them as a checklist of knowns. But imagination is what breathes life into desire. It's what turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. A simple touch can feel electric if it's infused with fantasy, with play, with intention. A kiss can feel new again if it's not just routine, but charged with curiosity. What if I linger here? What if I try something different? What if I explore as if it's the first time? The couples who keep passion alive are not the ones with the most free time, or the least stress, or the perfect compatibility. They're the ones who choose to keep imagining, who choose to keep seeing each other not just as partners, but as lovers, as mysteries, as sources of wonder. Responsibility, intimacy, imagination, these are not just abstract ideas. They are the terrain on which passion either withers or thrives. And once you begin to see this, you realize that passion isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you cultivate, something you feed, something you choose. When couples realize that passion is not just lost but neglected, something important shifts. Because the moment you see passion not as a victim of time, but as a casualty of inattention, you understand that it can be revived. But the question is how? Let's begin with a truth that often makes people uncomfortable. Passion does not thrive in routine. Routine is the enemy of erotic energy, and yet life is built on routines. Morning coffee, work commutes, family dinners, bedtime rituals. Without structure, life collapses. But when every day feels exactly the same, when nothing surprises you, when your partner's gestures are entirely predictable, desire goes to sleep. So the first invitation is this: bring back unpredictability. It doesn't mean chaos, it doesn't mean irresponsibility, it means surprise. Surprise is the oxygen of desire. When was the last time your partner did something that made you stop and think, "I didn't expect that"? It could be something as simple as an unexpected text in the middle of the day, not about groceries or the kids, but about longing. It could be a date planned without explanation, where you just say, "Dress up, I'm taking you somewhere tonight." Now, let me tell you a story. A woman once came to me and said, "My husband is a wonderful man, but he never initiates anything. He waits for me to plan everything. I want him to surprise me." And when I spoke to him, he said, "But I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to disappoint her." You see, fear of rejection kills spontaneity. Many people stop trying because they're afraid of failing. But passion requires risk. Desire is about stepping into the unknown, even if it means you might fall. The irony is that when you stop risking, you guarantee failure. So, unpredictability is not about grand gestures. It's about keeping the element of surprise alive. Sometimes, passion is reawakened not through more effort, but through less certainty. The second path back to passion is to reclaim individuality. You see, we often believe that closeness means sameness, that to be united as a couple means we must always think alike, act alike, even feel alike. But sameness kills eroticism. Why? Because desire is sparked by difference. It's in the recognition that the person next to you is not you, that they are other, that longing comes alive. Think about it. When you first met your partner, what attracted you was not how similar they were to you, but how different. Their quirks, their style, their way of thinking. Over time, though, couples try to iron out differences. They compromise, they merge, they smooth themselves down to avoid conflict. But in doing so, they also erase the edges that once made them fascinating. One husband once told me, "The moment I felt most desire for my wife was when she came home from a work trip, full of stories and experiences I wasn't part of. For those first few hours, I didn't see her as my wife. I saw her as a woman in her own right, independent, radiant, untouchable. And in that moment, I wanted her again." That is the paradox. We long for closeness, but we are turned on by distance. The space between two people is not a problem to be solved, it's the spark to be tended. So if you've lost passion, ask yourself, have you lost yourself? Have you become so consumed by being a spouse, a parent, a caretaker, that you've forgotten how to be a man or woman in your own right? Because the more alive you are in your individuality, the more magnetic you become to your partner. Passion is drawn to vitality, not to self-erasure. The third way passion fades, and the way back to it, is through the body. In the beginning of a relationship, touch is constant. A brush of the hand, a kiss on the neck, the closeness of bodies falling asleep together. But over time, touch often becomes functional. A quick kiss before leaving for work, a hug, hello. Sex reduced to a Saturday night routine. The body becomes familiar, predictable, sometimes neglected. But passion is physical. It lives in the skin, in the breath, in the way two bodies discover each other. When touch disappears, desire disappears with it. Yet touch doesn't just mean sex. It means reclaiming physicality in all its forms. Playful touches, long hugs, sitting close enough to feel the warmth of each other's skin. A couple once told me that after 20 years of marriage, their intimacy had gone cold. So I gave them a simple exercise every day for 2 weeks. They had to spend 15 minutes touching each other without the goal of sex. Just touching, exploring, being curious again. At first, it felt awkward, but slowly something shifted. The pressure lifted, the bodies remembered, and the spark began to flicker back to life. Because the truth is, desire doesn't just live in the genitals. It lives in the fingertips, in the eyes, in the imagination of what could happen next. And let's not forget the passion requires play. Children know how to play instinctively, but adults forget. We think play is childish, irresponsible. But play is the heart of desire. To play is to step outside of routine, to experiment, to laugh, to risk looking foolish. And couples who forget how to play inevitably forget how to desire. Now, here's something crucial. Passion is not about frequency. It's about energy. Many couples measure the health of their marriage by how often they have sex. But passion is not a number. It's the quality of the connection, the aliveness in the room when you're together. A couple can make love twice a week and feel nothing, or they can make love once a month and feel a fire that sustains them for weeks. What matters is not how often, but how alive. This is why I often tell couples, don't chase frequency, chase vitality. Ask yourself not, how many times this month did we have sex? But when was the last time I felt fully alive in my partner's presence? That's the true measure of passion. And here's another hidden truth. Passion is not about finding new partners, but about seeing your existing partner with new eyes. Many people believe that if passion fades, the solution is to leave, to find someone else, someone new. But the reality is that passion fades in every long-term relationship unless you consciously feed it. New partners provide novelty, yes, but only until they too become familiar. The work is not in leaving, but in rediscovering. The challenge is not to keep finding new lovers, but to keep seeing your partner as if they were new. So how do you do that? By choosing curiosity, by asking questions you haven't asked before, by noticing things you've stopped seeing, by remembering that the person in front of you is not finished, not complete, not fully known. They are always evolving, always becoming, and if you keep your eyes open, you'll find there's always something new to discover. If there is one thing I want you to carry with you, it is this: passion is not lost, it is forgotten. And forgetting is easy because daily life pulls us in so many directions. But remembering, that takes intention. One of the most overlooked reasons passion fades is because couples stop prioritizing each other. In the beginning, your partner was at the center of your world. You rearranged your schedule just to see them. You lost sleep talking until dawn. You treated every moment together as precious. But after years together, other priorities crowd in: work, deadlines, children, family obligations, financial stress. Your partner, the one who was once your highest priority, slowly slips further down the list. Not because you don't love them, but because you assume they'll always be there. But here's the truth: passion withers when it is taken for granted. Desire doesn't survive on leftovers. It needs attention, investment, and deliberate care. If you give the best of your energy to work, to children, to everyone else, and only the scraps to your partner, don't be surprised when the flame dims. Passion is like a garden. It doesn't die overnight, but it will if you stop watering it. So one of the most powerful things you can do is to consciously prioritize your partner again. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Set aside time where the focus is just the two of you, not multitasking, not distracted by phones or television, but truly present. You cannot nurture passion without presence. The second piece is this: passion dies when couples lose the courage to speak their desire. Many people stop asking for what they want because they fear rejection, or they assume their partner already knows. But unspoken desire becomes silent resentment, and resentment is the graveyard of intimacy. I once worked with a woman who admitted she hadn't told her husband what she wanted in bed for 10 years. She feared he might think she was strange, or worse, that he might dismiss her. But when she finally spoke her truth, something extraordinary happened. Instead of judgment, he felt relieved because he too had been holding back. Their honesty opened a door, and behind that door was a new landscape of intimacy waiting to be explored. Desire requires communication, but not the kind of communication that reduces intimacy to chores. Pick up the kids, pay the bills, take out the trash. It requires the kind of communication that risks vulnerability. To say, this is what I long for. To say, this is what I miss. To say, this is how I still want to feel with you. Those are the conversations that breathe oxygen back into the relationship. And let us not ignore one more truth. Passion is linked to the way we see ourselves. If you no longer feel desirable, if you no longer feel alive in your own skin, it will be hard to feel passion toward your partner. Many people wait for their spouse to ignite them, forgetting that desire is also self-generated. When you feel vital, when you feel attractive, when you nurture your own energy, you radiate something that pulls your partner toward you. So ask yourself, do you still take care of the parts of yourself that once made you feel magnetic, not for vanity, but for vitality? Do you still dance, dress up, laugh, flirt, or have fun in your own body? Because the more alive you are with yourself, the more alive you can be with your partner. I often say that great lovers are not people who give you something new. They are people who remind you of something you've forgotten inside yourself. And that reminder only comes when you cultivate it both individually and together. Now, I want to tell you a story about a couple who thought they had reached the end. Married for 25 years. They came to me saying, the love is there, but the spark is gone. They were considering separation, believing passion was simply something reserved for youth. But as we began to work together, they discovered that what they had lost was not love, but curiosity. They stopped asking each other questions. They stopped surprising one another. They stopped imagining. So we started small. I asked them to spend an evening where they could not talk about work, the children, or family. They had to talk as if they were meeting for the first time. And do you know what happened? They laughed. They discovered things about each other they had never known. And in that laughter, in that curiosity, something began to flicker again. The truth is, passion is not about age. It's not about novelty. It's about presence, imagination, and courage. Presence to notice your partner with fresh eyes. Imagination to create possibilities where routine has dulled the edges. Courage to speak your desire without fear. So, if you find yourself wondering why your marriage feels more like a friendship than a love affair, remember this: friendship is the foundation, but passion is the fire. And fire doesn't keep burning on its own. You have to feed it with attention, with surprise, with play, with honesty, with the willingness to see your partner not as someone you own, but as someone you choose over and over again. And if you feel that passion is gone, do not despair, because passion is not lost. It's waiting for you to remember, waiting for you to choose it again. So take a moment tonight. Look at your partner, not with the eyes of routine, but with the eyes of curiosity. Ask yourself, who is this person beside me? What have I forgotten to notice? What do I still long for? And then have the courage to share it, because marriage is not just about staying together. It's about staying alive together. And when you nurture passion, you don't just keep your marriage, you transform it into something that keeps evolving, keeps surprising, keeps making you feel, after all these years, I still want you. When we talk about passion, it can sometimes feel abstract, like a beautiful idea that sounds poetic but feels hard to grasp in daily life. But passion is not just poetry, it is practice. It is not just a feeling you wait for, it is an action you cultivate. One of the simplest yet most transformative practices is to bring back intentional time together. Not time where you collapse on the couch scrolling your phone side by side. Not time where you fall asleep halfway through a movie you've already seen 3 times. I mean sacred time. Time where you look at each other, speak to each other, listen to each other as if you were on a first date again. The couples who sustain passion are not those with fewer obligations or more free time. They are the ones who defend their intimacy fiercely. They protect it from the intrusion of endless emails, from the constant tug of children, from the pressure of extended family. They carve out space and they say, this is ours, because passion cannot live in the scraps of time left over after everything else. It needs to be placed at the center, even if only for a few hours a week. I remember one couple who had not been intimate for months. They loved each other, but between raising 3 children and managing 2 demanding jobs, desire had become a ghost. I asked them to begin with 1 evening a week that belonged only to them. No phones, no television, no work talk. At first, they didn't know what to do. It felt awkward, even forced. But slowly, those evenings became something sacred. They laughed again, flirted again, even argued in ways that felt alive again. Passion doesn't return in one grand gesture. It sneaks back in the small moments when you choose each other intentionally. And this leads us to another practice: rediscovering the erotic through curiosity. Too often, couples believe that because they've been together for years, there is nothing new to discover. But your partner is not a book you've finished. They are a story still being written. Do you know what they're reading these days? What dream they haven't yet dared to pursue? What fantasy lingers quietly in the back of their mind? Passion grows when curiosity stays alive. Many people think desire is about technique, about learning new positions, trying new toys, experimenting with what's trending in magazines. And yes, those things can help, but technique without curiosity is empty. True erotic energy comes not from what you do, but from how you see. When you look at your partner and think, there is more here than I have yet discovered, you create the space for passion to thrive. There is also the importance of creating polarity. Polarity is the dance of opposites, the play between masculine and feminine energies, between stability and risk, between closeness and distance. Desire thrives on contrast. Too much sameness and passion flattens. Too much distance and connection breaks. But when there is a balance, when one partner holds steady and the other flows, when one leans in and the other pulls back just enough, you create the delicious tension that ignites desire. Think of it like music, a song without contrast, without tension, without build and release. It's boring. But when there's rhythm, when there's harmony and dissonance, when there are peaks and pauses, suddenly you feel alive listening. Desire works the same way. It's not about constancy, it's about play. One of the tragedies I see in long-term marriages is that couples often stop flirting. They stop teasing, they stop playing with innuendo, they stop looking at each other with that mischievous spark. And yet, flirting is the lifeblood of passion. Flirting is not just for the beginning, it's the reminder that even after 20 years, you still see each other not just as roommates, but as lovers. And flirting doesn't have to be grand. It can be a look across the dinner table, a whisper in the ear when the children are distracted, a text that says, I can't stop thinking about last night. Flirting is the art of keeping the erotic thread alive in the everyday. Without it, passion fades into obligation. With it, even ordinary days feel charged with possibility. Let me also address something that is rarely spoken about, but deeply important. Many marriages lose passion because one or both partners carry unspoken resentment. Desire cannot thrive in the presence of bitterness. You cannot long for someone you secretly resent. Resentment builds when needs go unmet, when hurts go unacknowledged, when conversations are avoided. And slowly, intimacy turns into duty. So if you want to reignite passion, you must clear the air, speak the hard truths, acknowledge the disappointments, repair the small betrayals that accumulate over time. Forgiveness is not just about moving past the big wounds, it is about tending to the small cuts before they become scars. When resentment lingers, desire retreats. But when honesty flows, when wounds are tended, when both partners feel seen and heard, desire can breathe again. Now, there is one more essential truth about passion that most people overlook. It is not about constant intensity. Passion does not mean you must feel on fire every moment of every day. That is not realistic, nor is it sustainable. Passion ebbs and flows like waves in the ocean. The key is not to demand constant intensity, but to nurture the rhythm, to invite the wave back again and again. And when the wave does return, ride it. Don't brush it off because you're too tired, too busy, too distracted. When the spark appears, tend to it, feed it. Make space for it. Because the more you honor it when it arrives, the more often it will come back. Passion is not something you can schedule on a calendar, but it is something you can welcome. And the couples who live with passion are not the ones who feel it constantly. They are the ones who notice when it appears, who invite it in, who keep saying yes. When people hear me speak about passion, they often ask, but isn't passion something that just fades with time? Isn't that natural? And I tell them passion doesn't fade with time, it fades with neglect. What fades is not the possibility, but the practice. Time by itself is not the enemy. A couple can be together for 30 years and still feel a fire that surprises them. Another can be together for 3 years and feel the flame has already gone out. The difference is not the years. The difference is the attention they give to their connection. If there is one thread weaving through everything we've talked about, it is this: passion is a choice. Not a choice made once at the altar or at the start of a relationship, but a choice made again and again. Every day, in the small gestures, in the way you look at each other, in the willingness to be curious, to be playful, to be vulnerable. Passion is not about perfection. You don't need to be the perfect partner, the perfect lover, the perfect spouse. Perfection is not erotic, aliveness is. What your partner wants is not a flawless version of you, but a present, engaged, alive version of you. The one who notices, the one who dares, the one who still chooses them, not out of duty, but out of desire. And this is perhaps the most radical truth. Passion is not something your partner gives you. It's something you co-create. It's a dance between two people, and the dance only continues when both are willing to move. If you are waiting for your partner to take the first step, ask yourself, what step can I take today? Can I bring surprise? Can I bring curiosity? Can I bring laughter, touch, play, imagination? Passion doesn't return because you wish for it. It returns because you live for it. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you and your partner sitting together tonight. You could choose the safe route to dinner, television, bed. Or you could choose differently. You could pour a glass of wine, light a candle, ask a question you've never asked before. You could look into their eyes not as your spouse of many years, but as the mysterious person they still are. You could touch them not out of routine, but out of curiosity. You could whisper something playful, something daring, something that says, I still see you. I still want you. Small choices like these change the atmosphere of a marriage. They remind both of you that the story is not finished, that even after all these years there is still more to discover, more to imagine, more to desire. And let us not forget, passion is not only about eroticism. It is about vitality. It is about feeling alive together. It is about laughter that makes your stomach ache, adventures that leave you breathless, conversations that make you see the world differently. Passion is not just about what happens in the bedroom. It's about the energy you bring into every room you share. So if your marriage feels heavy, dull, predictable, know this: it does not have to stay that way. You can bring back lightness, play surprise. You can step out of routine and into possibility. You can choose to water the garden again, and when you do, the flowers return. I want you to ask yourself a simple question. What would it look like to fall in love with your partner again? Not with who they were when you first met, but with who they are today. Because the person beside you is not the same as they were years ago. They have grown, changed, evolved. And so have you. Passion is not about going back. It's about moving forward together with fresh eyes and open hearts. And here's the beautiful truth: when you reignite passion in your marriage, it doesn't just change your relationship, it changes you. It changes the way you show up in the world. Because when you feel desired, when you feel alive, when you feel connected, you carry that energy everywhere. You parent differently, you work differently, you live differently. Passion is not just about pleasure, it's about power, the power to feel fully human, fully alive. So tonight, take one small step, send that playful text, ask that daring question, touch with intention, flirt like you used to. Surprise yourself by surprising your partner. And remember, passion is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the lifeblood of a marriage that doesn't just survive, but thrives. And as we end this conversation, I want to leave you with this: you are not too old. Your marriage is not too tired. Your story is not too finished. The spark can be reignited. The fire can burn again. All it takes is the courage to choose it, to tend to it, to keep saying yes. Because in the end, marriage is not about the years you've spent together. It's about the moments that still take your breath away. And those moments are waiting for you, for your partner, for the love you both deserve to feel again and again. So go, choose passion, choose each other, and let your marriage not only be a story of endurance, but a story of desire, of vitality, of love that keeps unfolding in ways you never imagined.